Hello there, I'm Rob Hallam and welcome to Car File. Now, the first half of this week's programme, we're going to concentrate on the Toyota Yaris, a car that combines both Japanese and European design standards to produce a vehicle that many have said is genuinely different. So Richard Hammond and Ginny Buckley will be giving us their views on the Yaris, and I'll be driving this, the latest 1.3 5-door model. And then to give us a comparison and a contrast, in part 2, Ginny's back as she's testing the VW Lupo and the Seat Erossa head-to-head, and Ken Gibson, he'll be driving the Skoda Fabia.
Now, although many of us have secret dreams of cruising in a convertible or owning a sleek supercar, the reality is very different. Because there, in big, bold letters at the top of our shopping list, are the words cheap, economical, practical. Dull words, but very important ones. And 3 words that Toyota had very much in mind when they designed their latest super mini, the Yaris.
Now, the Yaris is one of those cars that really does live up to its name. Yaris isn't the most conventional of names, and you'd be right in thinking that this isn't the most conservative of cars. It is in fact something of an oddity. It towers above most of its counterparts at a rather statuesque 59 inches. It might not be as long as its rivals, but it will still fit 4 adults comfortably inside.
And inside, yes, you get another very pleasant surprise. There's been styling going on in here as well. Gone is a traditional dashboard, replaced instead by a centre pod that houses a digital information display. Now, generally the whole interior does feel extremely solid and well built, but darlings, please, can somebody ban the use of grey plastic from the interiors of cars? I hate it. Apart from that though, I haven't got any more complaints. There are plenty of cubby holes and storage spaces everywhere. Just perfect for things like naps. Now, the first thing that you notice when you get behind the wheel is the very upright seating position. Now, it may not suit everybody, although I do quite like it. And the second thing you notice is the fact that there is nothing in front of you telling you how fast you're going. Now, it is all over there to the right in the instrument pod. The gearbox on the Yaris is superb. It feels very sharp and the clutch is nice and smooth. And all this goes together to make the Yaris a really good car to drive around town in. This is where this car comes into its own. The steering is nice, it's got a good turning circle. There's power steering on everything but the most basic model. And because of the nice short body, it also makes it very easy to park. It really is a perfect city car.
Well, prices start at £7,495 on the road for the 3-door S model, and that rises to £10,995 for the 5-door CDX, which comes with things like alloy wheels, air conditioning and a CD radio as standard.
And did I mention, you should be getting up to 50 miles per gallon out of the Yaris. Not bad, eh?
Hey, you can't complain about 4 doors, plenty of space, 3 years warranty and 3 years free roadside rescue in case the unthinkable happens. And because this is a Toyota, there's really not much chance of that.
Now, I suppose some of us really are filthy rich and do spend our days sipping champagne whilst gazing at the exotic supercars parked on the driveway. But if for you the reality is 2 kids to get to school, shopping to be done at the supermarket, followed by a not so glamorous cup of tea, then the Toyota Yaris is the perfect car to have parked on your driveway.
Oh, hello, you alright? Just caught me reading my latest book, the all-new Car Thesaurus, and it's quite interesting actually. Let's have a look at Porsche. We've got high performance, German, status symbol, I'll go with that. Alfa, that's an interesting one. Alfa, Italian, passionate. Sporty again, very good. And what about Toyota? Reliable, a bit dull, bland, I'll go with that. Yaris. What's Yaris got to do with anything? Yaris. Innovative, award-winning, fun. They're not words you associate with Toyota. What is this book? I'll get to the bottom of this. So, do you reckon this thing is different, do they? Well, I mean, look at that headlamp for starters. It's just exactly the same as the, well, it looks like, All right, then forget the headlamp, but look at this grille, that old pepper pot design, yeah? That's exactly the same well, and that, all right, so the front is completely different, but what about the back? That's always a giveaway. There you go, you see what I was talking about? If it didn't have the Toyota or the Yaris badge on the back, straight away you'd say they've just nicked that design off the Nissan, yeah, no, it's exactly the same as the Ren, oh. All right, I'll hold my hands up, it's completely new, different, and yes, I like it. But at the end of the day, the body shell was designed by the European arm of Toyota. The Japs did the interior. Now you tell me the last time you got in a Japanese car and you were impressed with the inside. This, it's going to be no different. Aha. Oh, do my eyes deceive me, or is this interior cool? You know what, I think it is. What, centrally mounted 3D instrument panel. I like that, nice seats, I even quite like the material. And best of all, there's no black plastic. Woo, they've finally done it. And I'll tell you what else is cool. No danger of ruining my very expensive hairstyles on the roof there, which you get in most Super Minis. Yeah, I like it. Let's see what the back's like. Ha, there you are. Now, according to the handbook on the Yaris, if I do this and then this, wow, now that is cool. It gives you an extra 15 centimetres storage in the boot or 15 centimetres legroom. Fantastic, but it's drive time. Now, being fair to Toyota, they've never had a problem with engines, and the Yaris is no exception. You get a choice of two. There's a 1 litre and a 1.3, both of which have won major awards for design and innovation. And that's in part to the VVTi camshaft that they've got. Now that's quite clever, because it continually monitors and changes the timing of the engine, so you get the best fuel economy and the best power. Very clever. Now both of those engines are going to be fine for tootling around town and on the flat, but if you want a bit more oomph for overtaking and going up hills, well, I reckon the 1.3 is going to be better, because it's got 85 brake horsepower as opposed to the 1 litres 67. Right then, so I like the outside, the interior is pretty cool, but what about the ride and handling? Well, first of all, the driving position. It's a little bit weird because it's far more upright than like the Fiesta and the Peugeot, but you do get used to it quite quickly, and it gives you great visibility front and rear, which if you're a muppet at parking like me, it's fantastic. Now I distinctly remember my Thesaurus saying this car was fun, and you know what, I am actually quite enjoying driving it. It's not as instantly sure-footed as like the Fiesta, but there's still bags of grip, and it does feel really stable, and I don't think there's any danger of coming unstuck in the old elk test. Brakes are very responsive as well, and you do get ABS as standard on this, the 1.3, which is fine if you do get surprised by an elk. Ooh, sounds a bit painful, doesn't it? And if the worst does come to the worst, well, there's twin airbags thrown in as well. So what's this? I hear you all cry at home, leaving a Toyota with a smile on my face. Well, I've got to say it, I think this car is fantastic. And at prices starting at 7 grand, and there's a sporty model in the range, well, I think it's well worth a look. And it just shows that the Japanese can engineer with a smile on their face.
There's an old saying, small is beautiful. And as far as car buyers are concerned, that certainly seems to be the case. Small car sales now account for around 25% of all vehicles sold in Britain. That's over 500,000 cars, and Toyota want to grab a share of that action with this, the Yaris 1.3 SR. The European Car of the Year has been transformed with the arrival of a 1.3 litre 16-valve engine that packs a real punch and has transformed the Yaris into a little pocket rocket. And it isn't just a new engine that sets the SR apart. There have been subtle changes to the styling. The Yaris still towers above its rivals on the road, but now has a rear roof spoiler and is colour-coded to match the owner's choice from the 5 colours available. The suspension has been lowered to give it a more dynamic and aggressive stance, and a titanium effect grille helps to distinguish the SR from the other Yaris models. The whole look is finished off with 15-inch alloy wheels that come fitted as standard with Pirelli low-profile tyres, all very sporty. Once inside, you'll realise why so many comparisons have been made between the Yaris and the TARDIS. It's nice and compact on the outside, but it's absolutely huge inside. There's plenty of room for 4 adults, and there's even a decent amount of headroom. And you get a very sensible split folding rear seat. It's all very practical. Here in the front, you'll find that the Yaris lacks the bland, boring interior that we normally associate with Japanese cars. Okay, it is grey, but it's very well designed and at least it looks interesting. This sort of instrument panel in the middle is a fantastic idea. Everything is well laid out and it's very solid. And the little pod up here that houses the digital display, well, it might not be to everybody's taste, but I like it. The only thing to bear in mind is it can be a bit of a pain to read on a bright sunny day. But as I live in Manchester, that's not going to be a problem for me now, is it? The new 1.3 engine has many similarities to the 1 litre unit, which was recently judged the International Engine of the Year. The main shared feature between that engine and this 1.3 is the use of Toyota's VVTi technology. This intelligent variable valve timing system is usually associated with larger luxury or sports cars, and it's used to great effect in the Yaris. In fact, once you get behind the wheel, it's a surprise just how quick the 1.3 engine really does feel. It may only produce 86 brake horsepower, but it is very punchy, particularly when you get it up into the mid-range. Zipping around town and it is no problem at all, not least because you've got plenty of power to hand when you want it, but also because of the fact that the steering is very responsive and light, and it's a very easy car to manoeuvre. Visibility is good, add to that a slick 5-speed gearbox, and you've got a perfect little city car. Your next surprise comes when you get the Yaris out on the open road. The drive now feels far more refined and relaxed. The extra power from the new engine means that you no longer have to labour with the gears on a long incline. And this improved performance, together with changes to the suspension, means that the Yaris is now a far more entertaining drive all round. Coming in at just under 11 grand, the Yaris SR is a cracking little car, and it proves that small is definitely beautiful, but it's also rather desirable as well.
Welcome to Death Valley, California, one of the most inhospitable places on earth. A few years ago, it would have seemed the perfect location for Skoda cars, because most people thought that Skoda was very much on its last legs. And this is Furnace Creek, known to the locals as the gateway to the hell that is Death Valley. And that's why we're here to put the Skoda Fabia to the ultimate extreme weather test. We are right in the middle of Death Valley, and if I'm sounding as if I'm dying, that would be right. We've had the windows up for about 15 minutes with no aircon on. My heartbeat has gone from just under 80 to just under 90. My mouth is dry. The sweat is literally dripping off me. The steering wheel's on fire. The gear lever is not for touching. And dear God, let me tell you, if you ever come to Death Valley, make sure you've got air conditioning. And we've got about another 10 minutes to go, if I make it, before we can get back and do the same route with aircon. Do I need aircon? This is the second run of the Death Valley circuit, and as you can see, there's a big difference because wonderfully we've got aircon, and what a difference. It's like going from hell to heaven. My blood pressure has gone from high 80s back down to just round about 70. I feel cool. And it's not just the aircon and the driver that get put to the ultimate test in Death Valley. Skoda also used the searing heat to test all the in-car fabrics, the material on top of the steering wheel, all the dash and the doors. So, Doctor, what's the verdict of my state of health after that drive through the deadly desert?
You are in a very good condition. Can for a man of your age.
Thank you, I'll take that as a compliment, Doctor. So, as the good doctor said, the only thing I really need now after my epic drive in the desert is water. Lots and lots of lovely, cool water. I think I've found just the place. Yahoo!
Unfortunately, the car that we'd love to own and the car we have to own are actually very different. The reality needs to be an affordable, practical car, something to nip around in and transport us all from A to B.
And those are qualities that these two midget gems certainly have. The Seat Erossa and VW's baby Lupo. Cute little names, in cute yet practical packages. But they're also cars that won't leave you pleading with the bank manager. But how do these super minis, that are just perfect for today's super mums, compare with each other? In terms of the factor, they're both sweet little bundles. In fact, from behind it'd take the most observant of mums to even tell them apart. They both have a squared off little hatch at the back that opens to reveal a tiny amount of storage space which is actually even smaller in the Lupo. But that's the only point that makes the Erossa the more attractive of the two. Both cars have a very similar look. They do, after all, share the same daddy, otherwise known as Volkswagen. But the story here is one that's familiar to many siblings.
Unfortunately, the Erossa has lost out to its little brother in the looks department. Now, they are very similar. In fact, they could almost be twins. But while the Lupo has the potential to make it to the catwalk, the Erossa is always going to be the one known as having a good personality. But hey, when it comes to cars in this class, isn't a good personality what it's all about?
This is the kind of car that you immediately feel at home in. The 1.4 engine feels nice and punchy, it revs smoothly, and its 60 brake horsepower gets you to a top speed of 100 miles per hour. 0 to 60 takes 14 seconds, a couple of seconds slower than the Lupo.
The 4-speed gearbox is slick and it responds well. Now, my only gripe is that the power steering, which by the way is standard on all models, feels a little bit heavy. But that aside, this car sticks to the road like glue when you corner, and it really is, surprisingly, a very entertaining drive. The Erossa shares its platform with the VW Polo. Well, in fact, to be perfectly honest, it probably shares an awful lot with its cousins from Volkswagen. But that isn't a bad thing, far from it. What it actually means is that Seat's days of quality control problems are now long gone.
There's a definite feeling of quality about the Erossa. But of course, quality costs. And in this case, the 1.4 SE will set you back £8,395.
And that price includes a few extras, things like central locking, electric windows and a pollen filter if you're a hay fever sufferer. Now, the cabin isn't the most exciting of places to be, what with this extremely large, bulky dashboard of, yes, black plastic. But everything does feel solid and well built, and as if it would withstand the hammer that a family will no doubt put it through. Now, we know that little Lupo comes tops in the looks department, but what about that bit that we spend all our time in? The interior. Well, the bright green upholstery that tones with the exterior paint job will certainly wake up the kids in the morning. I think it looks great, it's really bright and cheerful. But don't worry if green isn't your thing, because there are plenty of other colours you can choose from. Now, in here the look is very modern and really well thought out. There's a very interesting use of shapes and some wonderful design touches. The Erossa may have been well built, but this eclipses it. It just oozes quality and design. You could almost be in a Golf that's been shrunk in the wash. Just look at the way the grab handles and the cup holders are dampened. There are plenty of ingenious storage spaces, and my favourite touch for those cold winter mornings, heated seats. These are things that you would normally expect to find in a luxury marque and not a super mini. In fact, the quality in here could put many luxury cars to shame. But then, this is a Volkswagen.
And this 1.4 SE may be more upmarket than the Seat, but it's going to cost you more as well. Around £1,200 more at £9.5 grand. But remember, because this is a Volkswagen, the reputation and build quality mean you won't lose quite so much money after a few years of motoring.
And what happy motoring it will be. The 1.4 engine produces 75 brake horsepower. That means you get a top speed of around 106 miles per hour. And if you're up for it, you can get from 0 to 60 in just over 12 seconds. But somehow I don't think the Lupo is going to attract too many boy racers. Now this 1.4 engine is definitely a better buy than the 1 litre. The 16 valves means that it rushes around town in a hurry to get all your jobs done. It really does feel very nippy. Overtaking is no problems in it, neither is cruising on the motorway.
The benefits of super minis are of course cheap insurance. Group 5 in the case of the VW and a low Group 3 for the Seat. They'll also be cheap to run as they both average around 45 miles to the gallon.
And now it's time for the bit that all brothers and sisters hate, picking the favourite. And in this family, it's a very close call. The Erossa is an excellent value for money package, and surprisingly, it's very entertaining to drive. The Lupo isn't quite so much fun behind the wheel, but it's the excellent build quality and those wonderful design touches that really make it stand out. And as I doubt that many of us are buying a super mini with performance in mind, for me, the Lupo gets to be the favourite in this family.
Well, that's it for another car file, and we hope you found it interesting. Now, on next week's programme, we're featuring some of the latest cars in the Ford lineup, from the Fiesta to the Puma, right through to the Focus and the Big Explorer. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.